I can be original and ask you about your power play. In light of the coaching staff changes you've made, have you determined who will be running your power play, and if there's any discussions yet in terms of tactics, personnel, any kind of changes?
Yes. Yeah, Quinny's going to run the power play. Him and I have had initial discussions. He's in the process of watching our group right now. He's in the process of having discussions with some of our players that participate on the power play. But certainly, we have decided a course of action as far as how it's going to work. And but that we're in the beginning stages of it right now. But we'll work through that throughout the course of the summer, and we usually meet as a coaching staff. Usually it's in August, and we meet for about 4 days, and we go through a due diligence process, and that will be part of that process. When we come out of those meetings, we essentially come out with all the details of how we're going to play, what we're going to change, things of that nature.
What was the process like for you in those few weeks of putting this with Todd, but also bringing in a guy like David, who you're obviously very close with? The emotions, or just the procedure, I guess, of all of that?
Well, there's lots of emotions. You know, these decisions are difficult, you know, and there's human beings involved. And so there were lots of emotions. What I will tell you is that Kyle and I went through a process when hiring the person for this position. Ultimately, we decided on Quinn. But we went through a pretty extensive process. We built a profile on what we were looking for in that person. We went out and put a list together on potentially who might best fit that profile. And then we went through an interview process and spoke to a number of different people before we made the decision on who we thought was best. And so we both feel comfortable with the process that we went through. And you know, obviously it's no secret that Quinn and I have an established relationship. But I will tell you that that's not the reason why the Pittsburgh Penguins hired him. You know, we hired Quinn to be part of our coaching staff because I know he's going to make us a better staff. He's going to challenge our thinking as a coaching staff. He's a really good coach, and he's got an opportunity to have a positive impact on our group. That's why he was hired.
Mike, last year, Ned obviously got the ball for the Sharks down the stretch. He's coming back next year. Are we looking at an open competition in training camp for playing time between Tristan and Ned? Or do you still view Tristan as the number one guy long term?
Well, I think Tristan is a starting goaltender in the NHL. And Tristan is a high-quality goaltender. You know, the tandem of those two guys last year for a significant part of the year was pretty solid. And so, you know, I think when you look at a snapshot in time, for example, right at the very end when we're pushing to make the playoffs, you know, I ultimately made a decision with the help of our coaching staff to, you know, to go with the guy at the time that we thought gave us the best chance to win. You know, we went with the hot hand, so to speak, right? And so, but that doesn't mean by any stretch, and I said this in, you know, at the end of the season, that we think less of Tristan Jarry as a goaltender. You know, he's a high quality goaltender. He played a lot of good hockey for us last year. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we're in a business where performance dictates opportunity, and you know, nobody's entitled to the position that they're in on on any respective team in the league. That's the world that we all live in. That's pro sports. Performance matters, and so and ultimately performance will always be the dictator. Can you imagine what it was like meeting with him for 4 days in Minnesota? That's what it was like.
Like, who are the younger players you maybe expect to compete for a spot out of training camp?
Well, I think it would be the guys that you know that you guys are all familiar with. You know, I think you know, we're excited about the opportunity with Pusty, for example. You know, our expectation is he takes another step. This offseason for him is really important. Jack St. Ivany is a guy that we were real excited about down the stretch with what we saw and how he performed. You know, he's got a great opportunity to make an impact and make our opening night roster. We're excited about his game. So there's another guy that potentially could take that step. Ponomarov's a guy that I'm excited about watching and getting to know his game a little bit more. But I know our hockey operations staff was really excited about acquiring him, and so he's another young player that potentially could challenge for a roster spot coming out of training camp. Sam Poulin is a guy that we thought made good strides this past year. So he's another one. John Gruden was a guy that played solid games for us. So we feel like we've got a stable of young players that are starting to put themselves in the conversation of being NHL players.
Mike,
Go ahead, Vince.
Going back to the David Quinn hire, Erik Karlsson had one of the best seasons of his career with him as his head coach. Are you hoping that hire will also have a very positive impact on Erik as well?
I think his relationship with Carl certainly can't hurt. Carl had a great year that year when he played for Quinn in San Jose, and certainly they have a good relationship and an established relationship. But there's no doubt in my mind Quinny's going to build those relationships with our other guys as well. He'll build that relationship with Tanger also, and I think that's one of the strengths of Quinny's coaching acumen is his personal relationships, his ability to interact with the players. He's a hard guy not to like, but he's a no-nonsense guy. He's a good coach. He's detail-oriented. Him and I have talked a lot of hockey over the years, on the golf course and other places. And I do believe in that he shares a very similar philosophy on how he sees the game and how we see the game. And so I think his relationship with Carl certainly will be helpful. I think his interpersonal skills will be great for the other guys as well.
What was Quinn like in college, and is it true that you used his ID as your fake?
Oh wow! How did you know that?
You said it in an interview a couple of years ago.
He did?
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yeah, did you?
Yeah, that is a true story.
Yeah? Never got caught?
No, it was pretty good. It worked. Anyway, it was. We get. People seem to think we look alike. I don't think we do, but a lot of people think we look alike. I don't know. Maybe we do. And so anyway, it seemed to work. So that is a true story. I'll validate that. What was the other part of the question?
What was he like in college? What was your relationship like?
It was a typical peer-to-peer relationship. We were good friends. We competed hard together. He was a real good player. Quinny's story and how he's evolved into the coach he's evolved into is really a credit to him. It's he was a really good athlete, a really good hockey player. He was a great defending defenseman. He was a first-round draft pick, and then he got diagnosed with Christmas disease, which is a form of hemophilia, and that essentially ended his career. And it was, and so that was a hard experience for David. And I was his friend at the time, and I remember going through it with him. He had such high hopes and was such an elite player in college, and I think he's dedicated a lot of that passion for the sport into the coaching part of what he's doing, and he's coached at every level. He's been in the National Development Program. He was an assistant coach in college. He was a head coach in college. He coached in the American League. He was an assistant coach in Colorado. He's been a head coach now on a couple of benches in the NHL. He has a pretty strong resume on as far as what he's put together with body of work as a coach, but there's no doubt in my mind that the experience that he went through when we were young players at BU and has shaped his his philosophy and his approach as a coach. It's really a remarkable story.
Mike, what do you and Kyle and the hockey operations team kind of hope to accomplish here over the next week or two to get you guys back to where you want to be back in the playoffs and competing for the cup?
So that's probably a better question for Kyle than it is for me, and I'm sure you'll speak to Kyle along the way here. But what I can tell you is that I know that there's a commitment to try to make our team as competitive as it can be, and it's hard because none of us have a crystal ball and where the opportunities might come from. So I think that's the challenge, but I think that the vision and the direction is crystal clear as far as what we're trying to accomplish and how we're trying to go about it. And I know Kyle will speak to that, but he's going to try to make us a better hockey team. And we've talked a lot over the last little while on what we think our needs are and how we can potentially do that. But I think as far as the opportunity to improve our team, I don't think Kyle nor myself or anyone can answer that, because that's the nature of the business of how hockey operates. So other teams are involved, and you don't know sometimes where those opportunities might present themselves.
Sort of building on that, right now the team is basically the same as it ended last season. What gives you confidence that if it kind of stays status quo, you can have better results next season?
Well, I think if you looked at the body of work for in different aspects of our game, there was a lot to like about our team. You know, our 5-on-5 play was pretty solid. Now that's not to suggest that we don't have areas for improvement. I think we can do a better job defending leads, for example. But our 5-on-5 game was pretty competitive. Our penalty kill was very competitive. You know, I think if we can do a better job solving our challenges on the power play, and our power play has the ability to have a little bit more of an impact, I think potentially this team could be in a different position. So that's not to say, you know, for 1 minute that we're satisfied with the status quo, you know. And I just think the nature of, you know, the business of hockey is, you know, it's not as simple as saying, oh, we're going to go out and, you know, we can't go down to Walmart and buy a player and put him on the ice, you know. Like, we don't know where some of the opportunities will present themselves, you know. Like, but I know that there's a commitment to try to make this team as competitive as it can be. And, you know, we believe that, you know, Sid is still playing at such an elite level, you know. Chris Letang is still playing at elite level. Carl, Gino, like, these guys are competitive guys, and they're good players. And we feel like we're in a position where we're trying to surround that core group with what we can to try to be as competitive as we can be and challenge.